Los Angeles had gone back to sleep. Highways filled with streams of red and white lights, horns echoing against the towers that loomed like giants too tired to care. Yet in the corner of the city that once erupted with human voices, Dodger Stadium now lay in darkness. Empty seats stood neatly aligned, as if thousands of silent witnesses guarding the world's most dangerous secret. The green grass at the center of the field bore only footprints, marks of feet that had run, jumped, and danced before tens of thousands of eyes. But the wind that swept through that night carried no scent of sweat, no sound of music. It carried only echoes, faint remnants of shouts already extinguished, of songs already ended, of heartbeats that once beat in unison. And yet, something refused to leave. The night did not die. The night never ended. It remained, not in the chairs of the stadium, not on the stage, but in the chests of the millions who witnessed it. Like a heartbeat that refused to stop, even when the body had already lain down. Because on that stage something happened. Something unscripted, unwritten, unplanned. Something born out of courage and vulnerability. Jungkook spoke. His words were not lyrics, not filler. His words were a blade, splitting the silence, escaping from lips long sealed shut by the walls of the industry. And Taehyung answered. Not with a speech, not with clarification, but with something far simpler, a smile. Yet that smile was sharp, that smile was deep. It wasn't just a facial expression. It was a confession. It was defiance. It was 1,000 words compressed into the curve of his lips. That night, Dodger Stadium ceased to be just a stadium. It became a monument. An invisible inscription, a turning point never to be archived in any company record, yet forever etched into the private history of its witnesses. The silence that followed the concert was not ordinary silence. Not the usual pause after music fades. It was a silence that pressed down heavy, weighted with meaning. As if the entire world held its breath together, waiting for something it couldn't name, yet knew was unfolding. Since that night, time has moved strangely. Clocks tick, days pass, but emotions stand still. The world moves on its surface, but deep inside, millions remain trapped in that night. The night that refused to die, the night that stayed. Those who witnessed it in person could not sleep. They closed their eyes, yet the stage replayed itself behind their eyelids. They heard Jungkook's voice, they saw Taehyung smile, and their chests tightened. Those who watched through screens were no less shaken. They replayed clips, froze frames, read lips, searched for signs. And with every replay, the feeling did not fade. It grew deeper, like a wound that refuses to heal, bleeding more with every touch. For some, it may have been just a fleeting moment on stage. But for those who understood, it was an explosion. A history not written in books, but engraved in hearts. A truth born amidst noise, but understood only by those who listened in silence. And amidst it all, one realization slowly rose: what happened that night could never be undone. It could not be silenced by statements. It could not be erased by censorship. It could not be stopped by fear. Because it was not rumor. It was not gossip. It was not fan service. It was real. Something born in front of thousands of eyes, planted in millions of hearts, and now indestructible. That night the world understood, the concert had ended. But the story had only just begun. And that story was not just about music, not just about idols, but about two human beings who chose not to hide anymore. And from that night on, the world never breathed the same again. The morning after the Dodger Stadium concert, the internet was no longer just a place to share photos or videos. It had transformed into a battlefield of emotions, where millions of fingers typed at a speed no machine could ever match. It began with a single small account. A foreign fan site uploaded a 7-second clip, the camera shaky, the audio noisy, yet within it was something stronger than the quality itself. Jungkook's gaze stopping on Taehyung, followed by a faint, broken smile. Just 7 seconds. But those 7 seconds opened the gates. Within an hour, the hashtag where is Jungkook appeared. Simple, harmless, as if only asking for a location. But 2 hours later, it morphed into Taekook after Dodger. The tone of the internet shifted. It was no longer just about where, but with whom. 3 hours after that, global trending began filling with words flying like bullets. Jungkook confession, Taehyung answer, the smile and the silence. The internet was building a narrative faster than official media could even begin to write. Army, who at first were torn between believing and denying, started dragging each other deeper into long theories. Some uploaded frozen frames from fan cams, Jungkook bowing slightly toward the microphone, lips moving without sound, before the lights went dark. They called it the interrupted whisper. Others highlighted Taehyung's reaction, his face tightening for a fraction of a second before he smiled. They named it the silent answer. In Korea, morning had just begun, yet Twitter Korea was already flooded with hashtags mixing languages. Jungkook's confession, Taehyung's answer. Even some major media outlets, usually reluctant to touch personal rumors, published veiled articles, hinting at the extraordinary reaction of fans. HYBE, usually quick to crush rumors, was slow this time. They issued a short statement, the concert ended successfully. Members are currently resting. 10 cold words, but those 10 words became fuel. ARMY read the company's silence as indirect confirmation. Within 24 hours, hashtag The Smile and the Silence surpassed 10 million tweets. Trending in 56 countries. From the digital billboards of Times Square to small LED signs in Manila, fans displayed the same sentence. We saw it. We felt it. Instagram overflowed with video edits, TikTok flooded with theories, YouTube exploded with 15-minute analyses dissecting a smile and a gaze. A tilt of the head, a second-long curve of lips, became the fuel of global content. But the explosion of hashtags was not just about fandom. It disrupted the rhythm of the industry. HYBE's investors grew restless, mainstream media pressed harder, and new spectators, those outside ARMY, began asking, what really happened in Los Angeles that night? The internet was on fire. Words were no longer just words. They became arrows, became prayers, became a mass confession that could not be silenced. That night's explosion of hashtags was the sign. The world would never be the same again. The night after Dodger Stadium, Los Angeles was quiet, but the world was not. Screens still glowed in dimly lit bedrooms, fingers still scrolled endlessly, hearts still replayed a smile and a silence that seemed to change everything. It wasn't the stage lights that stayed. It wasn't even the songs. What lingered was a fragile moment, one that no fan had expected. Jungkook lowering his head, whispering words lost in the blackout, and Taehyung caught between stillness and smile. That was enough to ignite a storm. In Seoul, dawn arrived with trembling headlines. Some tabloids dared to hint, others drowned it in neutral language. Fans react to mysterious moment at Dodger Stadium. But readers knew. They always knew. The headlines were veils, and behind them burned a fire that could not be named. HYBE's silence became louder than any denial. The company's cold statement, 10 words that said nothing, was dissected like sacred scripture. If it was nothing, why not just say so? ARMY whispered among themselves. And in that whisper, suspicion grew roots. Meanwhile, the fandom was divided but bound. Some swore it was nothing more than stage play. Others, eyes sharp with memory, insisted it was everything, a confession cut short by darkness, an answer hidden in a smile. Neither side could let go because both were already consumed. For Jungkook, fans imagined his solitude. Did he regret the whisper? Did he want the blackout? Or was it the only way he could ever speak? They pictured him staring at the ceiling, hearing his own words swallowed by silence. For Taehyung, they wrote poems instead of theories. The smile that spoke louder than 1,000 lines of dialogue, one fan tweeted. Another posted an edit of his eyes under dim blue light captioned, "We understood." The fandom turned him into myth, into symbol, into answer. And together, Taekook became a story bigger than any stage. Bigger than the music, bigger than the choreography. They became a secret carried by millions, a truth no press release could ever erase. By the second night, Los Angeles streets bore witness. Some fans had printed banners, hung them on railings, "The smile and the silence lives on." A message not for the world, but for two souls who might never read them, yet somehow always knew. On YouTube, videos titled "Did Jungkook Confess?" reached millions. On TikTok, the sound of silence itself, cut from the blackout, was looped endlessly. And on Instagram, artwork bloomed, sketches of intertwined hands, paintings of two silhouettes under stadium lights that had already died. The story had left the fandom. It seeped into culture, into casual conversations. Did you hear what happened with BTS? Even those who had never listened to a single song found themselves pulled into the orbit of a smile and a silence. And perhaps that was the most dangerous part. Because what started as rumor, what lived as fanfiction, began to look like history. No longer what if, but remember when. The industry shifted uncomfortably. Stockholders called for stability. Journalists sharpened their pens. Yet, through all the noise, one truth remained: the fans had seen something real. The night after Dodger Stadium was not the end. It was the opening of a door that could not be closed. A whisper had escaped into the dark. A smile had answered without words. And the world, whether ready or not, would carry it forward. The epilogue is never truly the end. It is the breath that follows the last note, the silence that follows the last cheer. And in that silence, Jungkook and Taehyung remained, untouchable, unexplainable, unforgettable. Because the world did not just watch a concert. It watched a confession. It witnessed an answer. And it will never forget.